This conference will now be recorded.
I'm here. All right, I'll give Amy another minute or two and then we'll start. She can just log in because I guess GP's not coming. So.
Who's got teams in the tournament this week?
Rutgers.
I know you do. I know you do, Greg. Because we hear about it all the time.
I'm not that bad.
Between you and Bruder, yes.
All right, Amy's in the house. All right, we're going to start the meeting. All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending tonight's special budget meeting. We just came from a land use meeting. The Borough Council did, so a couple seconds to get on. So I'm calling tonight's meeting to order of the Borough Council for our special budget meeting. Can you please read the sunshine notice?
Pursuant to the Open Publics Meeting Act, adequate notice of this meeting date was published in the Courier News and Bernardsville News on March 10th, 2022, and posted at the Municipal Complex in the Borough Library. Action may be taken.
Okay, thank you. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call vote, please. Roll call, please, not vote.
Council President Corigliano.
Here.
Councilwoman Dietrich.
Here.
Councilman Lemma.
Here.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Here.
Councilman Sweeney.
Here.
Mayor Skinner.
I am here. Okay, public comments, 5 minutes per person for non-agenda items. It's the policy of the Borough Council that all public comments on an issue shall be limited to 5 minutes per person. Comments may be made on any non-agenda subject pertaining to borough issues. In other words, nothing about the budget. Comments pertaining to public hearings should be saved for that section of the agenda. There'll be no debating between residents. Comments should be addressed to the mayor and council on your device. Again, I ask that members of the public please turn off your, please mute your device unless you're speaking because we get feedback and such. So does any member of the public wish to speak? Okay, seeing none. I'm going to close the public comment section. Moving on to discussions, 2022 municipal budget. I guess I will turn this over to Mark, our finance chair, so you can lead us in this discussion.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Mayor, what is your preference with respect to our department heads? Do you want to discuss their departments up front or just go through the budget and when we get to that, we get to it?
No, I'd like to do the fire department first because they have a training thing right now and they're online, they're volunteers. Then we can go to the chief since he's here, and then we can go to everything else. I mean, since those two are here, let's get them out of the way. Not get them out of the way, but let's go to them as a courtesy.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to check with you. So everyone, welcome to our first budget meeting of 2022. It may be our only. We'll see how far we get tonight and how everybody's doing by about 10 p.m. Late last week, I had sent you a first draft of the budget. I sent you another draft on Monday of the budget. That is pretty much the final budget. I owe a lot of thanks to literally every person who's on this call right now, although I don't know who RS is, who got their numbers to me and got them to me on time. So I will personally thank Dan McGill. I will personally thank John McDermott, Kingsley Hill, the chief, Steve Ferranti, Dale Melville, Nancy Bretzker, and Frank LaGuarina. I see him on the call, and I'm not quite sure who RS is, if that's one of our department heads under an acronym. But amongst all of yourselves and amongst a few who are not on the call tonight, you did get the numbers to me on time. You got them in a format that was very helpful to me. But putting this budget together this year was a bear for a number of reasons that I'm not going to explain up front, but I'll hit those points as we go through it. A lot of it has to do with our conversion to a new accounting system, which we were still getting used to last year. A couple budget number anomalies, all which worked out. We really came in well within budget last year. And that's what this year's budget is based on. Keeping in mind that there was a switch from accounting numbers from the old system to the new system. In the past, I used to show you these numbers with a history. I'm only showing 1 year history, but between Dale Melville and myself, we can reference other items if necessary. That having been said, let's dig right in. So because we want to get these certain department heads off the line, we'll start with fire. That's John and Kingsley. So I would ask everybody to take a look at the fire section of the budget, which,
And
Nancy,
Mark-
can I have screen control, Nancy?
Mark, we'll do fire, then we'll do OEM since Kingsley's on the line.
Yeah, okay, got it.
We need to him and keep him till the end, so.
Nancy, the guy have screen control?
Mark, you were on as a presenter already.
Oh, okay. Okay, can everyone see that? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So the way I'd like to go through this last year, it seemed to work well with us last year. I believe you've all had a chance to look at this. So what I will do is I will ask the department head if they wish to offer any comments on the appropriations. Then the council can discuss that, and then we can move on to capital items, if any, for that department. Okay, so John McDermott, we'll start with you. Do you have any comments other than what you sent me, though, which I put in here? You're muted.
Sorry. Good evening. Yes, most of the lines you'll see are close to what they were last year. There's two exceptions. The line for vehicle and equipment maintenance. Last year, you'll see it was $82,700 in the adjusted budget. That's, I believe, where you had put money for SCBA should we not have gotten the grant, which we ultimately did get. On that line last year, I spent $28,000. The number I have in there is $50,000 this year. The reason I have it that way, I rounded up to $30,000 based on last year's 20. And then as we've mentioned, counties will be going up to the 700 radio system in probably another year or so. As of now, there's no money from the county for buying the new radios. I would like to buy 3 portable radios that are what are called all band, such that they will work for our current system, but when the new system comes in, we'll be able to just convert them right over to that. We have a number of portable radios that are fairly old. Several of them now have broken pieces on them that they're really not worth repairing. What I would propose to do is I would give each of the chiefs one of the new radios. I would take one of the chiefs' radios and replace the ones that are broken, and try to go that route. So that's how I came out with that number on that line. On the turnout gear line, I had also put in, I'm sorry, on the SCBA line, I put in $13,000. When we got the grant and we switched everything over, the bottles that we had in the firehouse, the old bottles, do not mate up and match with the new SCBA. We had approximately 80 bottles at the time. We got 2 bottles per pack with the grant. So I think we have about 56 bottles now. I need to start to build back up towards the 80. The issue being, although we have 2 bottles per pack when we're on the fire ground, if we get a fire like we had the other Saturday night, where we don't have an air unit on scene from either Morris County or there's one in Somerset County whose name, the department escapes me right now. We can't get the bottles filled at the scene. Bedminster Fire is very gracious in that they will fill bottles for us, but that's subject to their availability. So I need to be able to get the apparatus back in service, and at times I'm down, I have empty bottles because they were used at a call, so I need to have some spares in the firehouse that we can throw on immediately and get the apparatus back in service. So that's why that number is in there for this year. And then also there's a small amount in there for the annual testing of things and so forth. So those are the two main items. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Oh, and just on the radio issue, when I put the number in, I didn't have a quote. I've now been able to obtain a quote from M&W, the state contract price, the radios that we would require, the portables, are $8,293.45 each.
Okay. And again, we're still hoping to see hopefully maybe see some money for radios on from the county end, right?
Yes, well, ultimately, we're going to have to replace all the mobiles and all the portables. Yes, we are hoping that the county may help us out with that but if we at least begin to buy a few of them now, replace ones that really need to be replaced, it'll lower that number at that time and also helps us out now.
Chief, I should take this opportunity to thank you and your team there at Kingsley for getting the tremendous grant last year, which saved us a hell of a lot of money. I believe it was $170,000 for the replacement SCBA gear. That was well done.
Thank you.
Okay, well done, Kingsley.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to council then, real briefly, capital. Council members, comments on this department?
No.
I'm not hearing nothing. Okay, let's move on. So you'll see I'm switching to the capital page. And under fire department, I'd like to explain this. You'll see that for 2022, I plugged in, so I did this, the balance that we need to purchase a new rescue truck, which we did not have sufficient funds for last year, but when we replenish the capital improvement fund, we will have those monies. So I do have 75,000 in to cover that purchase, which will be in 10 or 11 months from now. Okay. While we have him here, let's move on to OEM. If I'm going in the right direction, hold on.
Just before fire, just above fire.
There it is. Okay. So Kingsley essentially asked for a reproduction of his budget from last year, which I did plug in here. The only thing that I added to this was there was no line item. We have a new line item for vehicle maintenance and repair. I'm sure that's for the 5-ton truck. I know the councils always like to keep that to 1,000, so I did plug Kingsley without your mentioning it, $1,000 in there just to cover that, because you see we spent $3,200 in 2021.
I think that was the appropriated amount. I don't think we spent that much. It was 900 plus 600. I think it was about 1,500 actual expenditure. But okay.
You have an open appropriation at the moment, an open encumbrance at the moment.
I believe there's a PO that was issued for the maintenance work following the flood for $2,000, most of which was not consumed.
Okay, thank you.
But
Okay,
yeah,
We
but
should be getting a lot of that back on FEMA reimbursement, right, Kingsley?
we're getting a lot of that back on FEMA reimbursement. Absolutely.
And a lot of other stuff, but that's under it. So
Another $2,000, $2,100 for volunteer time as well for that flood.
All right, Kingsley, all yours. Anything you wish to say here?
No, I'm good with this. I think, as I mentioned in the email to you, I don't think we have as much, there's not much work with the truck at this point. It's doing fine. We've got some computers and some radios in the EOC that look like they're going to need to look like they'll need to be replaced soon. So we're going to start moving through that project. Some of the other equipment up in the EOC has been there since Sandy, and we need to update some of those things. But that's my only special projects, if you will, for the year. Otherwise, I think we're good.
Okay, on to council comments.
Just one question, Kingsley, on the dues, conference, and seminars, the 3,250. So the actual expenditures, it looked like, if I'm reading this right, was really zero this year. Could you just elaborate a little bit more as to what that will cover?
Yeah, frequently there are times we do the edits conference out in Pennsylvania. I haven't been in a couple of years. There are some other training conferences and events that we try to do. I'm required, and my deputies are all required to do a certain amount of training every year in order to maintain our qualification, the borough's qualification for its OEM, in fact, with respect to FEMA. So that's mostly what that's related to.
Okay, so this was tied to what your anticipated training is going to be for 2022.
Yeah, it's training and it's training and conferences.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other council member? Okay, I think we're set on that one, right? I know there's no capital, so we don't have to go there.
No.
Okay.
All right.
Chief and Kingsley, thank you for being with us. I think you're set to go to your other meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
So let's move on. Mayor, we want to go to the other chief, right? Chief.
Yeah, and we also have Dan, so we'll fight it out between the police and Dan who wants to go.
Okay, Dan or Chief, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll sit tight.
You sure, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. No problem.
All right. Well, as you can, Mark and I sat down over the budget. We went over it. There's not many changes from last year. We were pretty good last year. So slight increases here and there. I think we had a little issue last year, but that was mostly with accounting issues over extending some line items, but that'll be adjusted this year. So we did pretty good last year. We were actually able to buy a piece of equipment at the end of the year out of our operating budget because we were frugal throughout the year. We watched what we were spending. So
Dan, let's break it down a little bit more for the council members. Let's just start with streets and roads. Any comments on what I'm showing on the screen right now?
I don't have any comments. No, I mean, you and I went over this. I mean,
we did.
Salaries are okay. I mean, operating, it looks like it's almost exactly the same.
It's actually down because we had the mini excavator built in.
Yeah, you're right. We did take the mini X out of there, which we won't be purchasing, of course, this year.
Okay. All right. So before we move off of streets and roads, council comments.
Yeah, Dan, quick question. I see you have striping in here. Does that includes, I guess, crosswalks that we have? I know we're responsible for crosswalks on county, or are we responsible for county crosswalks? I think we are.
No, county road, right? No, the county usually does their crosswalks themselves. We're doing like whatever roads we paved this year. We got to pin stop bars, the stop lines at the end, and then the crosswalks that are on our roads, we're responsible for those.
So, and also what I know we've batted around because of parking issue down, bless you, if somebody sneezed, the parking issue down in front of Coco Lux. People park in that no parking zone, 25 feet from the crosswalk. I've done that for years since I've worked in town. But I know we've talked about maybe putting some more, striping there to show that that's a no parking zone. With that, if we did that, hello?
Yeah, that would come out of our sign budget because 2 years ago we bought a line striper, so we could do that ourselves in house. We wouldn't have to go out of town for that.
Perfect. Okay.
We did the new hours in the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's perfect. That's we can do that in house, so that's perfect. So
we can do that anytime. Yeah, we have paint. We have yellow paint. We have white paint. I think we have blue as well, so we can do that anytime.
Awesome. Okay.
Weather permitting.
Right. Yeah. Not the day before a rainstorm or up. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Super.
All right, Dan. Let's move on to buildings and grounds.
Okay, buildings and grounds again. We did a lot last year with our budget. There was been a lot of neglect. We've been able to replace doors and stuff it was just a lot of neglect that we've been trying to eat away at. Especially working at the firehouse, which has been neglected for a while. When I first started, Kingsley gave me a punch list. We got through that. We built an office in the police station last year, Steve and I. I paid for some, Steve paid for some, so it comes out of that. New locks have been changed. There's no all these keys not floating around out there. So again, there's no big changes here. So That's where, we went up $4,000, it looks like. I apologize. With the death of my mother, I haven't seen these sheets yet. So I'm going by these as what I see now. So it looks like, it went up $4,000, $4,700. Mark, am I right?
From last year,
Yes.
it went up $22,000.
Oh, I guess 22 axle. Okay, I'm looking at that. Like I said, I haven't seen these sheets yet. I haven't had a chance with my mother passing and everything. So I apologize for not being prepared. This is not how I operate.
Wait, buildings and
I'm
grounds,
just going-
177 to 173 to 177. That's 4,000.
No, I'm looking down here, Greg, on line 466. 406 salaries and wages, $406,000 versus $384,000 in 2021.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, now I'm seeing that.
Right
Yeah.
here.
But
So,
that's
I mean,
salaries. It looks like equipment.
Oh, if you take it X salaries, it's $4,000 difference, correct?
yeah, exactly, yeah.
So that's where we're at. Like I said, we intend to keep going with this improvement project, doing what we can in-house and whatever we can outside, we'll hire a contractor for. But we're moving forward. A lot of stuff's getting done. So I think, there wasn't that big of a change other than salaries.
So Dan, I have one question. The professional services for the 25,000,
Yes.
what is that for? I'm sorry.
Let me see. That is for pest control, Cintas. They come in and do the mats every month, and certain stuff like that. The water that we supply the guys, stuff like that. It comes all that all gets grouped together. It comes out of there.
Air conditioning repairs.
Heating and air conditioning is a big one.
Okay.
Oil
So not engineers, but actual services of third parties to do.
Right. The big one is the heating and air. We do a maintenance contract with that Jessamine, and then they give us a really cut rate on coming in if something has to be done. So a lot of that is that stuff like that. It's no engineering, nothing like that. There's really no engineering involved in buildings and grounds at this point. So that's mostly day-to-day or weekly and monthly services that we receive.
Okay, no, that's fine. That explanation makes sense. Thank you.
Dan, just so the council's aware, did you encumber for the scout cabin roof?
Yes, I encumbered that out of last year.
Okay.
So that's all. That won't even come out of this year. That's already, there's a PO already issued to Green Valley, which will be done. That should be done in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Just wanted to.
That was already paid for.
I know you and I had discussed that when we met, and I
Yep.
to mention that.
He's got a PO for new gutters, new roof, so he's ready to go as soon as the weather breaks, and that'll be done out of last year's budget.
Okay, thank you. Any further council comments on buildings and grounds?
Quick question, but it's more of a DPW, not buildings and grounds, so I don't know if this is the time to ask, but thinking about all the new signage, I was just noticing the paper products and such. When they have to get the new decals on the trucks, is that coming out of the DPW budget or signage, or where's that coming from?
That would probably come out of my vehicle maintenance, I would imagine. I don't know unless there's a special account for that. Mark would know more on that.
Vehicle maintenance is a separate area. All right. Anyone else? Okay, let's move on. We're gonna keep this moving. Well, while we're here, let's just take a look at vehicle maintenance, since that really is Dan.
And I guess
Here's vehicle maintenance. Can everybody see my pointer, by the way? Okay, good. Okay. Dan, do you have anything to say about vehicle maintenance?
Vehicle maintenance, you never know. It's just, we were well under last year, but with the new striping and the new wrapping, it may be a little bit more. You never know what's going to break, So that's just, if you don't budget for it, it'll happen. If you budget for it, it doesn't happen. So it's one of those things.
Okay.
That's why the numbers are a little bit higher this year. We didn't spend that much last year, but again, you never know with that.
Yeah, you got a bad snowstorm and you start destroying the snow plows or whatever, or stuff goes. Or...
Yeah, thank goodness we had a pretty light winter so far. Hopefully it's over. So, we were actually lucky that this year with that.
So Dan, given the new vehicles that are being added to the fleet, with dump trucks and so on, wouldn't the vehicle maintenance actually decrease slightly since they'll be under a manufacturer's warranty for the major repairs?
They would, but the two new ones versus the 4 or 5 old ones.
Yeah, just from a percentage standpoint, X percent more.
Most definitely, because your big dump trucks that's where your money goes. A lot of that.
Exactly.
There won't be that many repairs to the dump trucks.
So
which I think is why we only spent a little bit less than half of our budget last year.
Right, and we have that other new one. So would you have any objection, and I'm not saying to do this, I'll poll the council, of lowering that amount from 38,000 down to, maybe 32,000? And Mark, that would just give you a little breathing room in terms of cap.
No, I don't think that would be an issue at all. I mean, that's my opinion.
Don, I think that's a valid suggestion, but I think we should leave it the way it is, and I'll explain that when we wrap the budget up at the end. I think you should leave it there right now.
All right. Well, so I mean, I'll just add one other thing there. I noticed that the operating expense increase is $1,500. I would just ask if we could just lower it by $1,500 so that it's flat.
I'm sorry, lower what by 1,500?
The lower vehicle maintenance by 1,500 so that the total on vehicle maintenance will be the same as last year.
You mean the total? I'm fine with that if everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, we have fewer vehicles subject to maintenance. It should be lowered more than that, but I understand things happen, so at least it'll be flat.
Okay, done.
All right, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to sewer. Utility. And then we'll move on to capital.
Okay, sewer again. I have to see the totals.
Yeah, I can't show this all on my screen, so I'll have to scroll. Or else you won't be able to read. Can everyone read that sufficiently?
I can, yes.
Okay,
So just make my screen a little bigger.
It does fit. It does fit. Marlene's, most of it does.
It looks like there'll be a $23,000 in, $23,800. You can go through. I mean, a lot of that is health insurance went up $35,000. It looks. I'm looking at employee group health.
That's exactly what it is, Dan.
EDC went up 20,000.
That's a big one.
36,000.
Hopefully, we'll get that grant from the county, and that's going to help with that EDC amount. We'll get rid of the infiltration and intrusion that we have. We're waiting here on that big grant. We've been looking for it. We know where a lot of it's coming from. It's just a matter of getting to it and fixing it. A lot of it's in backyards up off of Brook Hollow, excuse me, in that way. So we're trying to get to it and fix it. We found some manholes that we're going to try and rehab this year to help stabilize that as well. So that's another big issue we're going to have this year that we're going to look to take out of operating budget, of course. We were able to do one manhole last year, so we're going to try and do more this year.
So two questions. So not a question, just a statement for the benefit of the others. The stab transmission system increase has to do with the utility for a lot of the repairs that are being done that were put off in the past. So I understand the reason for that completely. I do have a question though on the general liability insurance. Did our policy actually go up by a third? 48,000. Seems like a huge increase.
I need your help with that one because I got that number from you.
Our policy did go up. I think last year we didn't have enough in the line item. That's why it looks like there's a lot more this year.
So Nancy, if you look at actual for last year, it was 29,000. We budgeted 35,000 and it's moving up to 48,000. I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around those numbers.
I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but I think it's 100. It works out of the general.
I can comment on that. I think what happened at the beginning of the year, there probably was a misclass of the funds for that. So that line item wasn't probably charged enough. That's why there seems like there's such a gap in between.
Okay. Well, the bottom line is if we don't spend it, it'll go back to fund balance at the end of the year. So it's, it'll fix itself. Dale, I'll take your word for it. I'm fine with it. Thank you.
Okay. Council members, any further comments? Hearing none, I will move on. Are we good to move on?
Yeah, don't forget the capital for sewer, Mark. There are
Going in. Okay, so we're gonna do all of Dan's capital requests all at once.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, here we are on 2022. So columns F through L really. And let's start with Public Works right here. Now, I have to give you a couple notes on some of these. That was too much to put in email. First of all, we've really essentially already approved this one. We've passed the ordinance for the dump truck with plow, so that's a given. Okay. In addition, Dan is requesting, which he will have a comment on in a second, money to purchase a new front end loader to replace the case. A dump body for one of the Mason dump trucks. Dan advised me that the body is rotted out, but the chassis is fine. It can be used. And then $42,000 for an F-250 pickup with a plow. The council members will remember that this was budgeted last year, and the department forego it in order to acquire. Okay. So Dan, I will let me make one comment. For the council members only, it would be my intention to move the dump body and the F-250 out of capital and move it to the operating budget. Okay, or alternatively increase the CIF contribution by that amount. 6 of one, 1/2 dozen of another. But I would want to move these two to the operating budget, and I'll keep that in mind. I'll explain that at the end, why I'm recommending that. Okay, so Dan, back to you on these.
Like Mark said about the dump body, I mean, the truck is in great shape, but the body is just falling apart. It's a drop side body. They're not working anymore. We've had to bend them and get them to work again. So the truck is in great shape. There's no reason to replace the truck, but a new body would just give you another 10 year, probably 8 to 10 years on that truck. So instead of having to spend, I don't know, $90,000 on a truck, you only have to spend $23 and $22.5, whatever, to get a new budget. And then you can get a new body. So that just makes more sense at this point. The pickup truck is to replace my vehicle. And then, like I said, it's not only used just for me. It's like it's another pickup for the guys when I'm not there. I can plow with it. So everybody would get use out of this vehicle. And the loader, it's rusting apart. I mean, I could probably stretch it another year if I had to, but like we were plowing with it during the snowstorms and the headlight broke off because the brackets rusted off of it. So we had to make new brackets, buy new headlights. The cab is rotted. The bucket's showing a lot of wear, so it's past its usefulness. So that's why I looked at that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if John's sitting in the cab and it just rusted out and this foot went through, but another year could probably happen if it had to. I have no issue with that.
And Dan, that's one of those like go-to vehicles that you use all the time, right? And it's pretty old. I remember
every day. And the price of loader includes a 10-foot snow plow. So that's just another arsenal for our snow removal. We get some really heavy drifts on, say, Branch Road or anywhere in town. We have this through, or Mosley Road, stuff like that. We have this at our disposal. It comes in forks for unloading trucks and picking up everything. The same size bucket. I mean, we load all our salt with the loader. We use it in storm. Like we used a lot last week during that windstorm cleanup. So it gets a lot of use.
Okay, and I have some comments about the entire capital budget, but I'll hold that till the end. Dan, why don't you move on to streets and roads down below, line 22.
Okay. This is the streets we're looking to pave this year. Jonah Court, Lenape, and Ortam. We were in that area last year with Tanner and Perry and all that, so we want to continue that. So Lenape and Orton, they're getting ready. They're getting pretty alligated up, and it's just we don't start looking at them now. It's going to cost us more money going down the road with box repair and subsurface repair and stuff like that, base repair. So figure we'll knock that area out of town, and there's only a couple streets left, which we put into next year, along with other streets, and then we're pretty much done on that side of town, with Holland Avenue being paved and everything by the county. So that would bring us up to there. So that's why I chose those 3 streets. And that was 130,000. That was total. It was 150,000 put in just in case. I had Tilcon come out, who has the Morris County contract. He came out, measured the streets, and gave us the estimate, and that's where we're at.
Dan,
That's
how
really
comfortable,
curb to curb. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, how comfortable are you with that estimate based on everything that's happening with petroleum prices?
They're covered. They're covered by their contract. They submitted their price per tonnage for milling and paving, and they can't change that.
Okay.
So the cost of asphalt goes up. They're eating it. So, and like I said, I have a written estimate from them. So that's where I came up with those numbers. There's unforeseen things like maybe a manhole here or a catch basin there that needs to be adjusted. That's what the extra 20,000 is for, so stuff like that. Because you never know what once you start ripping up a street, you never know what you're going to find underneath.
Understood.
But
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Council members, I did address one thing here directly to Dan. And full disclosure, I live on Jonah Court. And I said, Dan, Jonah Court, yeah, it's 22 years old, but it's okay. Can we defer Jonah? And I at least from my view, Hillcrest seems to need it just as bad, if not worse. And he said, no, I would prefer that we do that whole neighborhood at once. And I intend to do Hillcrest next year. I was satisfied with that explanation, but others may feel differently.
Here's my deal with Hillcrest, Apgar, Bodine, all those streets over there. We have to do some sewer repair from through a sewer lateral on Apgar, so I don't want to start paving these streets until we make sure we're good with that sewer repair. Because a resident on Apgar had to fix his sewer, now we have to fix our end that's in the street. So that's another reason why it wasn't included. I want to make sure that sewer gets repaired before we pave the street. So
And I don't know if we want to start doing APGAR if we have, things that are at the end of the street.
and you're gonna, like that, you might have that development being built back there. So that's another key piece of this.
Okay.
We might actually be able to get the developer to kick in a little bit for that too.
Yeah, exactly.
If he tears it
That's
up.
even better.
Okay, moving on. Just so everyone's aware, I have no requests for sewer capital for 2022, so we don't have to touch that.
We are still waiting for parts to come in from last year's sewer capital. Valves there's no valves available. I didn't put the pit roof on because we just got the Muffin Monster installed a month ago. Lumber prices were through the roof, so it's just stuff now that the springs, everything's coming down. We're going to start doing this, and that's going to kick in from last year's size, but not because of the supply chain issues and whatever.
Hey, Dan, just as an aside, is there an estimated delivery time on those valves? I'm a little concerned about, the fragile state.
They're saying shortly. We have to, during that tropical storm Ida, we lost some valves in the sewer pit that we had to replace to be able to divert the sewer into the holding tank while we replace those valves. So that's just another issue that we're having. So Rapid Pump assures us that it's going to happen shortly. So as soon as I have word, I will let everyone know. But we're at the beck and call of supply.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, before we move off of Dan's departments, I'm going to go back to appropriations. I got a memo just now from Dale, who is advising me that EDC, this line item right here, and he is advising that we budget that at $700,000. And the reason being is because the bills came in way higher than we budgeted for last year. And November and December's bills totaling looks like $100,000 almost, $94,000 were charged to 2022. So he is advising that we up this number to 700,000. And based on that fact, I would. Any comments? EDC is going to take us broke.
Are we still okay with our sewer rate? Not that much of an increase.
Yeah, I would say for this year, I would take that out of fund balance. We'll match that. And you can't change it now anyway, so we'll have to look at that and make a decision for next year. Next year, you're looking at an increase in the sewer rate. Okay. All right, I think, Dan, we're done with your departments.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak.
Dan, let me just take a moment on behalf of my colleagues and myself. Our condolences to you on the loss of your mother. I know it just
Thank you very much.
on the call with us tonight, and it's very much appreciated.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, I'm ready to move on if everyone else is. Are we good? Yes, I see a thumbs up from the mayor. Okay, everyone, with respect to capital, let me just plant the seed and we're going to talk about it at the end. You'll see right here, $639,000 total capital requests. Again, that's honestly too much because we're in our operating appropriations budget, we only have $500,000 for capital improvement fund, which is the accounts pretty much. This is really more than we can afford this year for capital, unless we put more into capital improvement fund or cut something. I am going to propose to you that we move some of these smaller expenses to operating, and for good reason, which I'll get to at the end. But I would suggest that we listen to what Dan said, and I think we should defer the case loader to 2023. So just think about that. That would be my recommendation. Okay.
Mark, my thought on the caseloader, if we're going to be deferring it to next year, I mean, can we put half of it in this year and then half next year, smooth it out a little bit? And frankly, my preference, I don't like putting capital items into the operating, because then when we get to next year, those items sometimes magically reappear, without explanation.
Not when I do the budget, but yeah, I'm absolutely happy to increase capital improvement to cover that. And yes, we could allocate some of the money this year by upping that number. So the answer is yes.
I agree with John. I mean, there's merit in having low capital debt, but there's also demerit in having no capital debt sometimes.
Well, we wouldn't have capital debt, Don, if we included in capital improvement fund. And I'm certainly not looking to borrow $100,000.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So all right, everyone. So I'm gonna plug, but based on Don's comment, 100,000 in here as approval by the council, and we'll talk about these other ones later. Let's move on to Chief. Chief, good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me.
How are you, Chief?
Good. How's everybody doing?
We're good. We're good. I'm good, at least. All right. So Chief, I know you were one of the first to get back to me, which I applaud you on with this year's requests. Why don't I let you speak to some of these numbers here, and then we can discuss the capital requests. Okay?
Yes, sir. So most of the budget is pretty much the same. There are a couple of increases, but they're more just price increases from vendors, more so than anything. As you can see, a couple of the 2021, the balance is like for like electric equipment, we were negative 18,275, but that was because of the body worn cameras that we purchased. We're still waiting for them to arrive, but supposedly they're on their way soon.
Have we gotten the grant money for that, Chief? Aren't we supposed to get money from the state for that?
Yes, sir. So once we receive the everything, we forward them then they'll reimburse.
So it's reimbursement. Okay, got it.
Yes. Yep. Just looking down the list, I did increase our education, and that was just for the college payout. That was why there was a big difference from last year to this year. This year we don't have anybody in college, so I cut that back to 5,000. And the 5,000 is for just our knowledge for our guys, our detectives and such, for them to take some classes and to get updated on certain things. That's been pretty much the same for a long time, but it's coming back down because of that. There's no college this year. Just looking down the line, it's a vehicle maintenance repair. So I'm not sure if everyone's aware, we did have last Saturday when we had that snow, one of the officers was involved in a one-car motor vehicle crash. So that vehicle, we're waiting, I guess, maybe Nancy, I don't know if you have any information if insurance is planning on coming sometime soon to check that vehicle out to see where we stand with that.
Yeah, she told me she would let me know when somebody would be coming out, and I told her we needed something as soon as possible so we can figure out where we were going.
Okay. Yeah, from what I've seen, it doesn't look good. It was the officer struck a tree trying to avoid another vehicle which crossed the center lines. So instead of hitting the car head on, he hit a tree instead. So
he's okay, right?
Yes, everybody's okay. No one was hurt. Just the car, unfortunately. It was and unfortunately it's our 2018 Ford Interceptor, so it's one of our newer models. So we're not sure the status of that vehicle. The A-post took a pretty good hit, and not sure what the body is still intact or not. So insurance will take a look. So we're just waiting on that.
I just caught something, Chief.
Yes, sir.
This number has been double budgeted. I'm going to reduce this to 0 because under vehicle maintenance, we have 12,000 for police vehicle.
Okay.
If you remember a couple years ago, we consolidated all vehicle under one department. I'm
Yes,
going
sir.
to change 0 and it's covered elsewhere.
Okay.
Mark, just circling back on that. I mean, it's a 2018 car. If it's a total loss, we're not going to be able to. We're not going to be able to replace it with the insurance money. I mean, do we want to take any steps? Do you think we would deal with that on an emergency basis?
I think that qualifies as an emergency basis if it happens.
All right.
And do we have replacement insurance, or just like our, all of our vehicle policies, if you have comprehensive, it just gives you the payout of the vehicle, what it's worth? But do we have, because it's equipment?
Greg, that's collision. I mean, if we have the other driver and we can prove their fault, then it hits their policy. We should have John McDermott here for this because he does this kind of law. But if the other car who caused it, it would actually hit their insurance, not ours.
But I know, like, the first aid squad has replacement insurance, so if they lose a vehicle, or the insurance they have on their vehicles will replace the cost of a replacement vehicle. Not, you got a 10-year-old ambulance and it obviously depreciates $100,000, but a new ambulance costs XYZ, it'll pay that. So I guess I'm asking, do we have that type of insurance on our stuff or no?
That would be a rider on the collision. So I mean, Nancy, do we know?
I do not know off the top of my head. I will have to look at the policy, and I will call our risk manager tomorrow and find out.
I mean, that would be like an ideal world thing, but it's worth it to ask, I guess. So
I will call tomorrow and ask.
Okay.
One of the other interesting points, Nancy, even if we don't have it, is that the price of used vehicles now are going for the same price as new vehicles. So the settlement may be enough to purchase virtually a new.
Yeah, my car dealer called me up, wants to buy my car back.
Same situation. I can sell my truck for more than I paid for it 2 years ago.
You just can't replace it.
Yeah. Well.
As long as you're walking, you're okay.
Chief, do you want to comment on the last line about the 55 for the new Interceptor?
Sure, sir. So when we were initially spec'd out this vehicle, we were going with Gentilini, which is down in South Jersey. We're actually getting a Chevy from them, which is due probably within the next about 3 to 4 weeks. That's our last year's purchase. And because of the lack of the vehicles that are available, especially in the blue color that we get, It's been very difficult to get that car. It was supposed to be due, I want to say like November, December. And then we got a call. It was going to be about another 3 to 4 months. So, fingers crossed, we'll be getting both vehicles this year. So the 55, what we did was when we spec'd it out with Gentilini, the vehicle itself was about $34,000. Gentilini more or less told us that if we weren't going to use them to upfit the vehicle with our equipment, they were almost not willing to promise us a vehicle. So therefore, we decided to contact Bayer, who's in the Morris County Co-op as well as Cranford, but we contacted them. Their vehicle, same exact vehicle, the hybrid vehicle, is $40,000. So it's about roughly $5,500 to $6,000 more than what the vehicle was from Gentilini Motors. So that's initially the price would have been a little lower, but now it's come up a little bit because Bayer promises that vehicle within roughly about 28 to 30 weeks. So we did purchase the vehicle. We have not purchased any of the equipment to upfit it yet because we're 8 months, 7 months, 6 months, or whatever away from receiving that vehicle. So there's the price difference. And so that's why you'll see like a difference. Again, the 55, 918.90 is the actual, that's the upfitting, that's the labor, and that's the new vehicle from Bayer Ford. So that's that price, that 55,000. Now we were going to move some lights around to get it to 55. So 55 was like our top number.
Okay. All right,
Chief, do you have a timeline on last year's vehicle?
Yes, sir. So they told us again initially it was like November, December of 21. That got pushed back to, they said March, April. So I'm expecting within the next 3-4 weeks we should have that. And we purchased the lighting and everything is purchased. We just need the vehicle to get it upfitted.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to capital for police.
Mark, one follow-up question on operating. In light of the fact that we may be sending somebody to the county for 6 months, are you comfortable with that overtime line item number that you have there, 50,000 versus 48,000 last year that was expected?
I right now not very comfortable with it. I think that 6 months could turn into a longer period of time for all we know. I'm thinking maybe we need to add at least 15,000 to that line item. I was gonna say 10 to 15 more would make it much more comfortable. We're already getting we have some overtime that we're covering. We have some issues going on, some vehicle burglaries that we have some personnel coming in plain clothes to deal with. So we have that going on as well. So right now we have some things going on that we're dealing with, and I would feel way more comfortable with that increase. 10 to 15 would be great.
I mean, Steve, realistically, do you think that we can afford to send somebody to the county, given the totality of our circumstances this year?
Currently, it would right now, this moment, it would be very difficult to do. Much near impossible. Probably, perhaps pushing that back to the start of next year. We may be able to do that. But they are going to eventually put a little more pressure on us to send someone. But for now, I could probably push that back 6 months to try and get us to start of 2023. That would be probably the most we could push that off for now. But that's right now, this moment, it would not be feasible for us to send someone. We couldn't do it.
Council's preference?
I think we could end up shorthanded. So that's why I'm pressing that we add at least 10, maybe 15 to that line item.
I'm very number 50. That I seem to remember that number 50 when I was chief, and salaries have gone up quite a bit. So, which means overtime prices have gone up quite a bit. So, I don't think that's an unrealistic thing to increase. So,
yeah, we've held to that budget line for quite a few years. Tom's done a really good job the last couple of years with the scheduling, being creative. So we've been able to keep it down below 50. But yeah, it's right now, like you said, Mayor, with the increase in salaries as well as the possibility of being shorthanded. That's gonna increase that line. So
and guys get more senior, they have more vacation time, so that means more time off. So, yeah.
Yes. I would be supportive of adding the 10,000 to the overtime line to cover us. If we don't spend it, we don't spend it.
I agree with that, Don.
All right, capital. So we have the Interceptor is covered under operating. We have the everlasting alcohol test machine from the state police. Go ahead.
Mark, that would be an instrument, not a machine.
Instrument, excuse me.
That's correct. Yes, sir. This is, as you said, it has been a long time coming. They have narrowed down the exact unit they plan on going with. It's just in the beta testing stages. So it's in, I know it's in a Middlesex County and somewhere in one of the southern counties, Monmouth or Ocean. They have units out and they're being utilized by the bigger departments. And then they'll do their case law when they use the unit and et cetera. So I'm pretty comfortable that that's not going to be an expenditure this year. I don't think it'll be 2023 more than likely, but right now I don't see that being an issue this year. We can probably take that and put it on a back burner for now.
Got it.
Is our unit working still? I mean, do they make parts for it or?
Yes, still working. So it's no longer covered. So if something breaks in the current unit, we're kind of out of luck, or we have to fully purchase whatever the part is that breaks, and it can be extremely expensive. So,
but they do have parts for it, because I remember the old Alcotat or the breathalyzer, the 900. Remember they had no parts for them. It was that old. So you could pay for it all you want. You just weren't getting parts, so they had to get them from Canada because that's where they still use them. So
that might be more efficient right now. If we break it, we can use the old one. So
yeah.
Okay, Chief. Anything else? I think we're covered.
No, sir. That's it on my end.
Council members. Okay, Steve, thank you for being with us tonight.
Chief, great job. You did a better job than the prior chief.
Oh, no one should tell him that, though.
Yeah.
We'll keep it our secret.
All right. Thanks,
wow,
everybody.
tough crowd tonight.
Have a great night. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Appreciate your being on. I can't see everybody's who's on the call because I'm using my screen here.
I think Frank's here, right? Our building.
Frank is here.
Frank patiently waiting for all of us. Frank, you're there?
I'm here. I just unmuted. Yes. Can you see me? It says Vivian in the corner. I'm on my wife's computer here.
Now I see it.
There you go.
I just got a note from somebody. I just wanted to make a note. Okay. So let's go up to Frank's department. If I'm going, here I am, right here. You'd think I know which direction to go by now. Frank,
It's up or down.
I'll open the floor to you. With comment on any of these items that you presented to us.
All right. Well, mine's rather small compared to the other budgets we just went over, so shouldn't be. Yeah, there you go. Can you make it just a little bit bigger? There you go. Okay, so let's see. The only increase from last year, well, let's see, 2022 requested, 21 budget. Transition to online plan review. Do you have any questions about any of these items here, Mark? Did you understand everything?
I do understand what you sent me, but the council members may have some questions. You should also be aware that Nancy and I plugged some money into the IT budget to purchase 2 additional licenses for SDL, some of which has to do with your department, some of which does not.
Okay.
All right, just so you're aware.
Okay, so the 21 budget
Everyone, the council members aware of the statute that went into place regarding plan review and filing for construction permits? No? Am I seeing yes or no? Frank,
No.
why don't you brief everyone quickly on that so they know what's going on?
I'm sorry, Mark, I was just looking at the numbers over here. What were you speaking with the, what did you say?
Brief everybody on the SDL initiative, online plan review, and the filing of construction permits online, electronic filing.
Yeah, well, there's actually a bill proposed in front of the Senate, which is bill number 1739, which is requiring all construction departments to introduce electronic plan review into their repertoire. So everyone's going to need to do that. And we're going to, we're trying to transition to that so that people will be able to submit everything online, and including plans, and we'll also be able to do our plan review online. So we're going to need some training from SDL, and I don't exactly know, Mark, maybe you've talked to them about, what they would offer us as far as cost and things. I don't know exactly how much it's going to cost. So, I try to budget just whatever we need. Yeah, I think is that the additional, is that 3,000? Is that what that says?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Well,
I'm hoping.
Professional service, which would be,
Yeah, it's mainly SDL, right?
I would say so.
What they're going to be
Well,
charging
we
us.
actually have SDL charged in two areas. We have it here, but we also have it up in IT. And Dale, correct me if I'm wrong on that. Under software and licenses, we have this number here, which is mostly for SDL.
Okay. Dale's muted, but.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know. Yes,
the
that is correct.
Yeah. So the SDL licensing, which is costly, gets charged right here. And if you were to hire somebody to come in and provide training on the new online plan review, that line would go under your budget, which is here.
Okay.
And that is around what SDL does charge for their training.
Okay.
All right, so council members, any questions for Frank while we have him on the line?
Mark, John Sweeney, the vehicle allowance was, that was 2,500 in 2021. Was that a reduced number in 2021 due to COVID? Because we're going from 25 to 55 on the vehicle allowance.
Nancy, didn't something happen where we didn't charge it last year or something?
Oh, I'm sorry. I see the note, 3,000 for gas price increase.
Well, let me speak to that. And if there's no further questions, let me speak to that one, because Nancy and I put a number in elsewhere that bears explanation. Does anybody have any more questions on these other than that? And let me move over to capital for a second. No? Yes? All right. So the reimbursement, the one area that's been handed from administrator to administrator in PPAC has been reimbursements for vehicle. And there was a mix of arrangements made by prior administrators, even some before I even came on the board, of who gets what reimbursement for what. And back when Chris Tejan was administrator, his idea, I believe the idea came from him, was to acquire two small vehicles as fleet vehicles for all of our inspectors to use. So they're not using their own vehicle, which is a liability issue in and of itself. We don't have to reimburse by mileage, which is difficult. And instead, these two fleet vehicles will be able to be used by our code people, our zoning people, and our assessor. which would result in a rather substantial savings. And honestly, I really don't think they want to use their own cars anyway. So we did plug in a number into capital of $40,000 to acquire 2 hybrid or electric vehicles. You might remember Roy Smith, when he was on the council, was trying to acquire 2 Priuses from the county somehow. I don't know how, but for this purpose, and it just never happened. So it would be our hope that eventually this hodgepodge matrix of reimbursements go away, and that every one of our inspectors and zoning have access to a vehicle that's branded for the town, that's recognizable, and could be used for inspections.
Mark, can I say something?
Yes.
I've said this many times in the past in my prior life, and I've said this as a member of the council. I have a great idea for that, and our previous guy who was in charge of vehicle maintenance was along with it. If we get a police car every year, and then after 5 years, because we have 5 marked cars on patrol, not the pickup truck, after the 5th year, that car comes out, and then it goes to 1 year the chief, the next year the DPW superintendent, the 3rd year goes to a 3rd, 4th, and 5th years can go to these fleet maintenance, these fleet vehicles. So we would probably get 10 years out of a police car, 5 years on patrol, 5 years in fleet, and then we could just recycle them that way. We save a car 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years like we have with the police cars. They're destroyed, not because we drive them into trees, but because they just get hammered. But 5 years on patrol, then it goes down to the fleet, and then we could prolong them that way. We don't need a specialty vehicle and just start recycling vehicles that way.
A fine idea that I would be very happy if we implemented.
I like that idea.
And we don't run into the thing where we've got an issue with police cars right now. They're falling apart because we keep trying to limp them out, save them for another year. But 5 years they go, then it goes into the rotation, and then
anyway. And when they get recycled that way, the usage is going to be less than what the police use them for.
Right, completely less. Yeah. An inspector comes in once, whatever, a handful of times. The administrator needs a car to go to a meeting. She can take it. Whatever, a multitude of uses. So, and a lot less use of heavy patrol use. Okay. Thank you.
Honestly, the few times I went to Trenton for affordable housing, I would have preferred to have taken a town vehicle and not my own. So I see. And we
probably should, like you said, the liability. I mean, if we go on a meeting or something, I mean, coming to town hall is different, but you go to a meeting someplace and you get into a crash, I don't think our insurance is going to pay for the replacement of our car. And now that insurance issue is now on whether it's the council member or the employee, for trashing their car. Hopefully it's not their fault, it's somebody else's fault, but still, that all counts against you in the insurance game, because the Lord knows how the insurance people work. But and I had an inspector come to my house for work I had done last year, but from another town, obviously, because our inspectors can't inspect my work or the work that's done on my house. And from a neighboring town, very clear, Bedminster Township, whatever it said, whether it was inspections or just Bedminster Township, but they were in a Bedminster Township vehicle, and they obviously do that in Bedminster too. But I think if we can get to that route where we have vehicles, but if we do that with our police cars, I think we'll be repurposing them and getting 10 years out of them, and they'll be a good 10 years instead of trying to patch them together in the last 3.
And we're already shifting over to the hybrid vehicles now with the police cars, and I actually think this is that's a more environmentally friendly solution, because we're not throwing a vehicle on the dump heap.
Right.
All right, council members, anything?
I agree. Environmentally, it's better to reuse than to buy something new, even if it's a hybrid or electric, and we're going to make that transition over time.
All right, so while we're here, I'm going to zero that one out.
Mark, I just had a question about, it's more of a procedural thing, going back to the appropriations for the allowance, the vehicle allowance. Because prior to this, everything went through payroll. So is my understanding now, with this being a line item in other expenses, that the employees will be putting in for reimbursement through requisitions through MSI. Is that correct?
I believe Nancy implemented that as of January 1.
Okay. Okay, just wanted to double check and make sure.
Yep.
All right, so if they, and just to reiterate, like, if they go over $600, we'll have to issue 1099s to them, just so it's no surprise at the end of the year.
You could still run it through payroll and just charge that line item to vehicle allowance.
Okay.
Good call.
All right, we can discuss that later. It's, like I said, it's more of a procedural thing.
Dale, you and I have about 100 items we have to discuss after this.
All right.
Frank,
And that's not after this meeting, right?
no, not after this meeting. I'm done. I'm done already. Frank, are you? Thank you so much. I know we held you the last. I apologize for that, but thank you for taking the time and being with us tonight.
Okay, thank you for having me.
All right, pleasure.
See you soon. All right, bye-bye.
Okay. So we are now back. We went through our department heads. I think that was very productive. Let's go to the top and let's start working through this.
Mark, how much do you think, I mean, how long do you think this will take? I mean,
Greg, you tell me. I think if we move through this quickly, we could be done, well, unless we really get into deep conversations, by 10:15 to 10:30.
because I'm kind of thinking, let's try to call it before that. I know it means another meeting, but I just think, I mean, we had the meeting before, we have this one. I know we're not used to long meetings anymore. I guess that's a good thing. I just, it's number crunching, it's this and that, and just, do we want to go for another 30 minutes or so and then just say, hey, let's call, so we're clear for the next time we go through it.
By the way, I have to admit I'm exhausted tonight. It's been a long work day for me, and I started at 5. So I am absolutely fine with that. But I do have an issue I need to discuss with you all, and that is I am away on vacation from this Saturday until the following Friday. So let's just all look at our calendars for a second. I could take the call for while I'm away, but it's going to be difficult considering where I am.
You're
on vacation. It's not like a special meeting for an incident that came up.
So Mark, you're
I'm
away
away
from,
also next week.
Mark, you're away from the 19th to the 2nd?
So the 25th.
Oh, okay, that one, a week.
And plus
Can we do
Nancy,
this part of the meeting on March 29th?
what was that?
Can we do this as part of the meeting on March 29th?
Let me just ask the council, is there any possibility, I know it's asking a lot, of doing it on Monday night, the 28th? And the reason I ask that is because I would sure love to do a first read of the ordinance on the 29th.
Okay.
I'll be recovering from jury duty, so it'll be something fun to look forward to.
Wait, Dale
I
and
have an environmental commission meeting. Could we do it on the early side?
wait, say that again, Jamie?
I have an environmental commission meeting at 7:30. So could we start a little early? If we think we're going to have maybe another 45 minutes or an hour after tonight?
So Mark, if I'm looking at the remaining budget items, these are all relatively perfunctory things. I think we could bang through this in 30 minutes and be done by 9:45.
Yeah, we can, Don, but then we have to review capital, then we have to go over salaries, and then I need to show you the dashboard. No, we won't get it done in a half an hour. Okay, we can knock a lot of it out, but we can't get it done in a half an hour. I'd love to, but we can't. Jamie, so let me just understand, you're tied at 7:30 on Monday night, the 28th, right?
Yeah, it's environmental commission.
Well, I'll say this, if we met at 6 o'clock on the 28th, I don't see why that hour and a half plus an additional half hour tonight, we couldn't wrap this up.
Jamie, are you virtual for that 7:30?
Yeah, so it'd be a quick transition for me.
Yeah, so we could start it at 6 then.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Nancy, and a question for Nancy and Dale. Nancy and Dale, do you see an issue having the ordinance prepared and ready for the following evening?
The resolution to introduce the budget?
Yeah, just for introducing it, you can do the,
That's all will be based on Dale and Heidi.
I
'cause
know.
They prepared the introduction.
Yeah, but the only document you need to have ready after that is the budget document, which comes off of this, right?
Yes.
And then you could buy it, you could do that after we do the reading, correct? Or does it have to be available for the reading?
I believe it has to be available for the reading, but I can double check.
Okay, let me look at my calendar.
Now, would we'd be in person though, right?
Yes.
For what, the next budget meeting?
Yeah, because their council meetings are in person.
Well,
that would be harder for me. Can we do it virtually?
wait, let me throw another idea. What I'm hearing here is it's gonna be hard to get this all done with the second budget meeting on the 28th and the council meeting on the 29th. So why don't we have our second budget meeting the week of the 4th, and then we'll have a first reading of the budget on the 12th, and the second reading of the budget, it's going out a little bit, but it's not a problem, on May 10th.
We've gone out late. We've gone out later, Mark.
I know we have.
Yeah.
The 10th is perfectly fine. I just have this thing about getting it done by April 30th, that's all.
And then we're not trying to cram through either on a meeting before somebody else's meeting or something like that.
Yeah, agreed. All right.
Okay, so now we're on April 4th.
Wait, say it again, Jamie?
So now we're switching from March 28th to April 4th.
I think what we're hearing is we're cramming it in by doing it on the 28th.
Okay,
So
no, I just want to be clear. I just want to have it in my calendar.
Instead, the week of the 4th.
Oh.
The week of the 4th.
And I have a problem then. I'm away on business the night of the 4th, all day the 5th, and I come home in the early afternoon on the 6th. So we would have to do it the night of the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, or Saturday morning, the 9th.
Do it the night of the 7th. Do it the 7th, the Thursday.
Earlier the better.
I'm away the weekend of the 8th and the 9th.
So the 7th.
So the
Yeah,
7th.
7th.
Works for me.
All
We'll
right.
get you out quick, Nance.
All right. And
All
then
right, that's fine.
are we going to do
I have
this
a
first?
flight at 9 o'clock the next morning on Friday morning, so.
We'll get you out quick.
We'll get you out by 8 a.m.
Virtual or in person?
That's fine. As long as I'm at the airport on time, I'm fine.
Virtual or in person?
I think in person.
Okay. 6 p.m. or 7 p.m.?
7.
Let's go. I would opt for 6 p.m. Just, I mean, it's, to me with the budget, it's always better when you're fresher.
I agree with the 6 p.m. also.
I was just saying that so that we could eat dinner before the meeting.
No. You can eat dinner during the meeting.
We could do that. Mark can bring some pizza for making us sit through a second budget session.
We'll get pizza.
I will bring pizza if you'd like pizza.
So just a suggestion, if Dale is going to be in the meeting, Dale, do you live in Montgomery?
I live in Brandsburg, so I'm a little bit closer than Montgomery.
Oh, okay. Because, I mean, I don't mind this virtual format for us to look at spreadsheets. I think it's understandable for me to just have the document in front of us. So in the case of anyone who's from a distance, I would be happy to keep this virtual.
You know, I'm happy to keep it virtual. I always get a stiff neck at the meetings when we have to look at the screen.
I don't object to having just the budget meeting virtual. It's a good point.
Neither do I.
And Mark, you can deliver the pizza to each of our homes. It works out fine.
Pizza ain't happening, Don. Forget it. Come to
Mark, are you getting the pizza in Brooklyn?
No.
Come on.
Good. Don, you want pizza? Come to my house. I have frozen. Okay. All right. So here's the deal. We go from now till just before 10 o'clock, or we'll just say 10 o'clock. Nancy, you're going to notice a special meeting on April 7th, Thursday at 6 p.m. virtual.
Yes.
Mayor, you're good with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay. All right, good. Let's move on. Okay, let's start at the top and work our way down. So here, we're gonna do this just like we did in prior years. I'm gonna call up the department, ask if anybody has any questions. If there are none, I will move the numbers from the requested column to the approved column, and we will move on to the next one. Are we good with that?
Yep.
Go.
Okay, after we do that, we'll go to capital, then we'll go to salaries and wages, and then we'll do a review. And again, that's for tonight and our next meeting. All right, general administration. Questions, comments?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Sorry, I just clicked somewhere. You'll all see that I built in a number here to cover the new signage, which we're very close to doing. Okay. Mayor and council. Questions, comments?
Nope.
these numbers right here. What, the miscellaneous expense, it went from, I mean, it was budgeted for 3,000 last year, but we only spent 900 or 893. I don't know what usually comes out of that.
I can't say offhand. Dale, can you chime in on that?
I will have to go look. What gets when people make purchase orders, sometimes they're not really sure what line to charge based on the available options to them. So it could be a misclassification of things, and we're not always, we do our best to make sure that we catch everything, to make sure everybody's charging their appropriate account numbers. But as long as our main focus is making sure that mayor and council other expense is being charged to the mayor and council other expense line item, the purchase order matches the invoice, and then therefore so on and so forth. So sometimes these things happen with the misclassification to where somebody doesn't really understand what it is for, it was a mayor council other expense, but they may, because for whatever the item was, they decided to charge it to miscellaneous expense because that was like an easy thing. But for more detail, for anything you have questions on, I can research those line items and give you exact what that $893 represents.
I think those miscellaneous expenses, those were for the wreaths for the Memorial Day and the 9/11 services.
Okay.
Jamie,
Would that be special projects and events?
Jamie, would you feel comfortable reducing that number?
I think so. I mean, it's, we're not seeing much historical except for 1 year, but if it's wreaths and stuff, 3,000 seems like a lot.
I'm going to go to 2,000. Is that okay with you?
What would special events and special projects and events, wouldn't that be the wreaths?
That's where you would think that they would have taken them out of, but I think
Not
that they took them
necessarily.
out of the miscellaneous.
Because special projects and events went over, it looks like, right? A lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, where did all that go to?
That I don't know.
Dale, would you make a note to look that number up and get us an email on that one? The 110-214.
Special projects, yes.
I don't have an answer for that one either. Okay. So I'll adjust that once we get an answer. Ready to move on?
Yep.
So Mark, affordable housing, sorry, just a question on that. Was that the money we set aside for when Randy was in the role of managing affordable housing?
No, this is legal fees that we've usually paid a Roger.
Okay.
That's Roger, yeah.
Yeah, and John Sabo, professional fees.
Okay. Should we, is it appropriate to put a little professional fees note after it, or we just know that?
I can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully next year, that line item, we'll be able to reduce it.
Yep, I think that's going to be substantially lower next year.
Do we have
Okay.
enough money for pizza with that $2,000 miscellaneous?
We put the pizza in employee appreciation. I don't know. Yeah. Are we
Only
good to move
29.
on? Yes or no?
Move on.
I'm good.
Thank you. All right, clerk.
Everything here in mine pretty much stayed the same from last year. There wasn't much increase, or there was no increase in any of the lines. The only line that might have had a little bit of an increase, and I don't even think I did that. No, I kept it the same, is the new deputy clerk will be doing her classes for her RMC.
So Nancy, just one question. The salary increase is 26,000 over prior and 45,000 over actual. I'm sure the answer is on the payroll spreadsheet, but I think the increase for the administrator salary comes out of the administration line. So could you explain why there's such a difference?
Let me explain that. Part of the administrator's salary is charged right here. 40, Amy, was it 45% or 40%? I think it was 45% of the administrator's salary is here, because the administrator is also the clerk.
Got it. So it was a partial year last year, therefore it's a full year in
Yes.
2020.
Yep.
Okay.
Plus, we now have deputy clerk full-time.
Yep.
Okay. And administrative assistant full-time.
Okay, that makes sense.
Both of
Thank
which some of their salaries are charged here.
Okay.
It's really very simply a reallocation of how we're allocating our employees.
Yep.
Okay. Nancy, you'll notice I plugged 1,000 in here. You had nothing in here for stationery, and I see we spent, I know we didn't spend it all, but I thought you should have money in here for stationery.
Okay.
Okay.
That'll work out good if we run over for any of the new stuff that we're going for the stationery and envelopes.
Okay.
Our business cards and all of that, so.
We'll allocate that bill. Comments, questions, council, or move on?
Move on.
Okay, hearing move on. Finance. Questions or comments? Dale makes this very easy for us, right, Dale?
Yeah, I reduced it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
Move on.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Audit, pretty straightforward. Questions, comments? When somebody says move on, I'll move on.
Move on.
Good.
Okay, IT.
Got a question, not so much on the money here, but I just saw a thing before we started. There was a town in New Jersey that was hacked or whatever. And in light of what's going on in the world and certain countries that are involved, they're very good at hacking and causing all sorts of mischief. Are our safeguards and protections, and I know a lot of that's through QuickTech. I mean, are we, and you can never protect completely because even a Pentagon can get hacked, but are we pretty confident with all that?
Greg, I don't think we have any systems that we control ourselves. These are all third-party systems. Whether it's
No, we are very vulnerable. We have data on a server that if it was hacked into and ransomed, we'd be in big trouble.
I mean, if somebody shut down our computer systems, said you can't use it and then you got to pay money. I mean, okay.
What happens is I'm under the impression, and I work in IT, that QuickText does a complete backup every single night. And if we were hacked and ransomed, we'd have to wipe out everything clean and restore from the backup.
Okay.
Not as
And
easy as it sounds, but very doable.
And that stuff is stored off site someplace, right? Electronically?
Yeah, I will,
Yeah.
yes, it is. And I will also tell you that Quick Text, we've had a couple of problems with our backups. Quick Text has been quick to come in and change what we needed and
I think
right
we
away.
just
So that,
spent, I think, $1,400 on a new backup drive, right?
yes, we did. We just spent that right now.
Also, be aware that one of our department heads questioned our vulnerability back when Randy was running the town. And I know Randy, I'm going to say earlier in 2021, reached out and spoke and corresponded with Quick Text. And at that time, he was comfortable that our firewalls were up to date and that we were protected as best as we could be.
Okay. Good. Just, yeah, because of current events.
I would, Greg, I'd love to tell you that we have 100% security, but I don't think I can say that to anybody.
I know that's not true anywhere, but.
Yeah. Okay, I'm moving on unless somebody tells me otherwise.
Forward
Okay.
ho.
Collection of taxes.
What's our collection rate? It's pretty good, right?
97.5, 98%.
Okay.
Yeah, it went down a little.
It did go down. It then went down.
How does that compare to other towns?
I think,
I mean, it's pretty good, right?
yeah, given the circumstances, I mean, I wish it was a little percentage better. But, you know, considering, you know, COVID and, you know, some other towns, but I think it's probably comparable because I think Montgomery is at the same, maybe a little higher. Manville, surprisingly, is similar, which I was shocked about.
Yeah.
Considering how much devastation they had.
Considering what they went through, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Must be that new administrator.
Yeah. Where is he, by the way? Okay, collection of taxes, tax revenue. Anybody? Yes, no, move on?
Straightforward.
Okay. Tax assessor.
So I had asked you about this, and I think you were talking about it a little bit earlier, Mark, with the $1,200 vehicle, like the flat allowance that Ed gets. Is that getting changed this year? I thought that was getting changed this year to not a flat amount.
So my understanding is this was a deal that was made with the assessor well before I was on the council by a prior administrator. And he's been charging this flat amount every year. And I would suggest that I would say that if we implement the vehicle plan that the mayor suggested, that he will have to use those vehicles and he can't get an allowance.
Yeah, I
He's
mean,
also one that is
his allowance is like 3 times as much as everybody else's.
I would say it's inequitable too.
Sorry, Nancy, you were saying something also?
Yeah, he is one of the ones that is supposed to be keeping track of his monthly mileage.
Yeah, I mean, how do the auditors look at that? They must have a field day with that in a bad way.
I don't think the auditors would consider something like that, honestly. That's not for them to look at.
No, but I mean, the fact that if we're paying out a vehicle allowance and, you know, you're supposed to go per miles and, oh, well, there's no records on miles. I mean, but.
Oh, I thought you were talking about this compared to some others who get an allowance. Oh, you're absolutely
You know,
correct.
the auditors had a problem with it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. They would have a problem with that.
I mean, to the point where, like, if you put in a, you know, for reimbursement, you bought something for the town, heaven forbid you paid tax on it because you're not getting reimbursed for tax. But then, you know, because we don't pay taxes or sales tax, but yet, oh yeah, I guess pay me a flat fee for vehicle. Like, nah. Anyway, okay. As long as he's got to put in for mileage and he's got to keep a record of it, then that's good.
Yeah, like I said, my understanding of this, when I once inquired about it, it was a deal that was made with him by somebody in the past, and it's been upheld incorrectly. You say the word.
Move.
Okay, legal. So the first thing that's going to stand out here is this number of $41,000 right here. And that is because Mr. Bruder's last 3 months of bills did not make it in. Am I correct on that?
Shocking.
So we
I
need to
believe
get
he got a little caught up after the Christmas dinner, apparently.
a little bit.
We're still missing 2 months worth of bills right now. He's caught up till October.
Yeah, I think that's
Which were in
41.
after you pulled that number out, Mark, though.
What was that, Nancy?
They came in after you pulled that number.
Okay.
Yeah, so that 41,000 probably was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think May or June, Nancy?
I think.
Yeah, I think that's what that was.
Yeah,
Maybe. That's
he's that far behind.
one of us will have to say something to him. I will. Moving on, engineering. Listen.
Mark, can I just hold up 1 second? You may have it covered elsewhere. But on legal, legal general, John Bruder, what about the cost of arbitration if we end up there?
I think that's going to be out of this number as well, John.
You think we're going to be able to fund it out of that number, out of that 90,000 when,
That's a,
you know?
that's a very valid thought. No, John, I think we should increase it. I never thought.
Like 50?
Somebody break the news to John Bruder that he's not getting a raise.
Greg, you think 50,000 is the right number?
I think that's too much. That, you know, I sent an email to John Sweeney earlier. John, that's 160 hours of work at the bid rate.
I think it's 7,500 for the arbitrator. And that's, it was 48,000 in Bedminster before the appeal.
I mean, that would involve months of the Labor Council working exclusively with us and nobody else.
I don't disagree with the math, with your math. I guess but I'm basing that number on what another town ended up paying out of pocket on it.
Give me a number, guys.
Well, you know what I would say, let's be conservative per Don's comment, but let's conservative with a little aggression. 30, add 30, I would say.
30?
I was going to say 32.5, 25,000 plus 7,500 for the arbitrator.
Okay.
Round it off, guys. Don't give me 500. 35? 35?
79 cents.
Come on. Okay. All right. Engineering, Ed, Bill Ryden.
How is he with billing? Does he bill regularly?
Yes, he bills every month.
Bill's the best. He's the bestest.
Mr. Bill.
Okay.
All right.
We don't have a problem with any other of the professionals. They all bill for the previous month.
How about
When basketball season is over, Bruno will catch up.
Yeah. How does Roger Thomas go? I mean, is he current on his bills? I don't.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it's a Bruder thing.
I will talk to John. I'll talk to John.
I think he's just at 2 months behind right now. I think he's now the first 2 months of, he's 4 months. He's the first 2 months of 2022 and the last 2 months of 2021.
Okay.
Cultural heritage, that was, I spoke to Pat directly, that she's requesting her usual 1,500. So I can move past that. Land use board, I plugged these numbers in working with Greg Yannicone. And no comment here.
Yeah, that's good. Whatever. Yep.
Okay. Zoning, that's just salaries. We'll get to that. I'm going to skip that. Construction, we went over already with Frank. Insurances. Nancy, did you have anything you want to say here?
No, I did do when John was asking, when Don asked on the other one, we are, I did a real quick calculation of what our general liabilities are, and they are about correct.
Okay.
Our yearly is 142,829 just for the insurance. That doesn't include any of the fire insurance that we have to pay. So these are covering a lot of other things also.
Yep. Okay. Workman's comp, I don't think we have any much to discuss right here. Group health, any questions here?
Mark, just one thing, Nancy, you could probably address it. If I looked at the health insurance coverage under sewer, which went up significantly, and then I looked at the health insurance under group, it went down. Which should they have been the same?
No, we pay the retirees and the health benefits for the retirees come, well, I'm sorry, not that. It's late.
I'm not focused on the amount. I'm just focused on the difference between 2021 and 2022. So here, 2021, 2022, it went down. Under sewer, 21 to 22, it went up significantly.
Yes, the way Dale helped me out here, the way it was distributed in the beginning was not the 2/3, 1/3.
Okay, so it had to do with the formula change and
Yes.
is corrected in 2022 as compared to 2021.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Dale?
Yes, the first part of the year, we realized that the sewer wasn't picking up their share. So we corrected it from that point in time going forward.
Perfect.
But so
that explains why this went down as well. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so it's a reallocation of the existing monies between those two accounts.
Correct.
So Mark, I think since we're all having a little difficulty here, you want to start wrapping it up?
Yes, Greg. Yes, Greg, I will.
And I know you're in concurrence with that, so.
I am in concurrence. I'll tell you what, there's a couple, give me 3 minutes and let me get past these few that we've done already.
I think we should do salaries later on, just because that's a big topic. So.
I'm not getting to salaries tonight.
Good.
No. Just I'm at line 250. We have about 700 lines. Let me just knock out 3 or 4 more and then we'll shut it down, okay?
Sure.
Okay, health benefits waiver, I'm leaving alone. I don't think there's any questions there. Police, we did already. OEM, we did already. Fire, we did already. See, I'll feel good if we get through all these. First aid squad, I'm putting in the usual 60 there. Okay, and I'd be comfortable stopping right at fire UCC.
Amen.
Are we going to split out that payment again this coming year, the 60,000, 30 and 30, like we did last year?
We should. Dale, will you make a note of that? Yes?
Good
Dale,
call.
What Jamie is saying is that the first aid squad is to be paid in 2 payments of $30,000 each. One in the first.
Okay, so not the, okay. All right, yeah, we can do that. I'll make it do that.
Okay. All right. Greg, I'll stop here. Is that good?
Yeah, I think that's good, right?
Okay, so just a quick recap. So you all have this document, so you can review it in preparation for our meeting on the 7th. We're going to complete appropriations from fire safety official down. We're going to go over salaries and wages. We have to do a brief review of capital. And we're going to look at the total numbers. Now, I want to discuss the total numbers just for 1 minute so you get an idea where we stand right now. Right now, our appropriations are $12,000. Everything we've done so far, excluding obviously what we still might do, is $12,000 less than what they were last year. Okay? Here's what I'm going to be recommending to you. I'm going to be recommending, if you'll notice on capital, we are going to have well, you know what? We're going to be okay. What I was going at is when I went over these numbers with our auditor, Heidi, he recommended that we not have a reduction in the amount to be raised by tax. It's a modest reduction right here, as you can see. And I, after years, although I did not agree initially when I was a new councilman, I agree with the reason for that.
You never get it back.
Yeah, because you never get it back.
I'm almost done.
It's not noticed. Reductions aren't noticed, increases are noticed. So what I'm going to ask the council to just ponder, and that's some of the reason I told some of you when we were reducing numbers, so don't reduce it by a few thousand, leave it the way it is. There's a few reasons for that. Number one, the excess that's not spent in the fiscal year does roll back to fund balance, and that's important because as you can see, I'm projecting taking $1.8 million from fund balance to make this budget work this year. And then again, that number could also be reduced. But what I think I'd like to do is maybe this year, in order to bring this number up a little bit by about $90,000, which would be a very modest tax increase, is we increase capital, assuming everything else stays about the same, that we consider increasing capital improvement fund by $100,000 and bank it.
I understand now why you wanted to do the reallocations before. Okay.
You understand, yeah. Okay, and the capital improvement fund, if it went up 100, would absolutely cover all of these approved capital expenditures that we're anticipating this year.
As a former department head, amen. Like, yeah, you can't reduce your operating budget too much because it bites you the year after, the year after, the year after.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. It's a hard lesson to learn in government. It doesn't make sense, but I believe that's what we should consider doing. I'm not saying this number needs to be a lot more than last year's, but it should be a little bit higher.
But it shouldn't be less.
But it should not be less. That's correct.
Right.
So just park that idea, your thought in your head, and I'm happy to discuss that concept, I'll call it, with any of you offline between this meeting and our next one. Because I will still be looking at these numbers and seeing what other errors I can find.
That's vacation time for you?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, bring your laptop.
I bring this and I bring my taxes with me on vacation.
All right, so that wraps up our discussion on the budget. Thank you, Mark, and everybody. Moving to public, right? You're good, Mark, right?
I'm good, thank you.
Public comments for agenda items. There is nobody in the public, so going once, going twice, gone, no public discussion. Is there any further business?
Yeah, just one comment. I need to acknowledge, I acknowledged our department heads earlier. Two very key people to putting this budget together are on the line with us, and they fly under the radar oftentimes. So a big thank you to Nancy and Dale. A pleasure to work with you on this.
Thank you.
For helping us keep our town efficient and our taxes down.
Yes.
Okay, any further business other than that? Nope. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Anybody opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
See you on the 29th.
Very good.
All right, good night, everybody. Thank you. Good
Thanks
job.
for listening to me so much tonight. It was a lot.
Thanks for guiding us.
Looking
Thank
forward
you,
to
Mark.
the pizza, Mark.
What was that?
Looking forward to that pizza.